Today we start off Genesis chapter 5, and we will read from verses 1 to 5. I may have to do it in more than one part, but I'm hoping to get this all done in one reading and in one session. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Notice it is very important to notice this fact. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Verse 2, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Adam actually means mankind. And Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. Oh, what? You mean Seth wasn't created in the image of God? And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. Now, chapter 4, as we ended previously, it ended with Adam and Eve parenting Seth, and then Seth fathering Enos. From here on in, the names in the genealogy deal only with the lineage of the Messiah, as I've already mentioned before. And as it pertains to Luke chapter 3, 36 to 38. As such, we would expect the names to reflect a heritage of righteousness and godliness in total reliance on a great God. Now, verse 1 marks the second of the great generations announcement of patriarchs in the book of Genesis. The first one, of course, was God. He was the first patriarch. Here, the patriarch is Adam. The fact that the word book is used strongly suggests to me that reading and writing were abilities developed by the earliest generations of mankind. Certainly, if they lived 900 years, they must have developed a language even within the first 100 years. That would mean that Moses edited and assembled written records as well as oral tradition. You see, many theologians today think only oral tradition. They assume that mankind could not have advanced to the written page and to the written language like we have today. But they assume wrongly. Because if people lived that long, they must have developed something. Wow. See, we also have here a repeated emphasis that Adam or man was in the likeness of God. Now, verse 2 appears to be very confusing. Male and female he created them and blessed them and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Many versions substitute man instead of Adam. That would make sense, as Adam and man are both translations of the same Hebrew word. although the former would also be appropriate because Adam means earthy, red, to remind man of his humble beginnings. We're made of red clay, or quite frankly, we're made of dirt. Now, verse 3 is also quite noteworthy, and I want you to listen to this. Adam lived 130 years and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image. Seth was born in the likeness of Adam, with a sin nature, as we all are. It is possible and probable that other children were born to Adam and Eve during the first 130 years, especially daughters. Seth is mentioned particularly by name because I believe that God revealed to Eve that he was the appointed son to eventually lead to the chosen Savior, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Remember, in chapter 4, verse 25, it was Eve that named him. Where Adam begot sons and daughters now verse 4, where Adam begot sons and daughters for another 800 years, highlights the fact that humans were fruitful for hundreds of years before the great flood. The longer fertility period also guaranteed many potential sibling spouses. I did say sibling spouses. Yes, brother married sister. Sister married first cousin. Man married first cousin. Remember, the race was, the human race at this point was fairly pure and undefiled. Now, brother and sister marriages were necessary in the first few generations to obey God's command to multiply, Genesis 1, verse 28. Incest and close marriages are genetically dangerous nowadays because of the accumulation of harmful mutations in the human gene pool over multiple generations. Besides, it was prohibited during Moses' time, Leviticus 20, 11 to 20, and finally completely stopped only about 2 centuries ago. Now, in some cultures in the Middle East, some of them still marry first cousins, much to their regret. Now, in verse 5, we read, all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. This is the first mention that people die. We are reminded that we eventually die of natural causes as we break down and age. I know, I'm looking at my own life and I'm 69 years old. I know that eventually I will break down and age and die. Now, before this, we read of the lineage of Cain where death did not come naturally. Well, people were slain. Although people lived to be incredible ages because of the protective vapor barrier around the earth, they still died because of that fateful first act of disobedience in the Garden of Eden. I am hereby reminded by what Paul wrote in Romans 5, verse 12. By one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin. And so death passed upon all men, for all men have sinned. That is a serious thought to hang on to, isn't it?